to take this hat off. My hair is jumping out of my hat. This is Chef Kwasa, personal trainer, coach, all things whole, fresh living, unprocessed foods, and fitness. And I'm live today with Kemistri Blake from Body-Culinary. And this is a really vibing alignment conversation. And today we're going to be exploring perimenopause, menopause, and embodiment, in terms of a movement practice. We're going to be discussing, with different generations, what my experience has been. Hopefully I can offer you some insight in terms of what's coming down the pipeline, because I always feel like a lot of women have no clue what's coming. So I'm open to her questions. I'm always open to also learn from her, because a lot of these conversations have not been had with us from our mothers. So I can't tell you how many times I went back to my mother, like, Ma, why didn't you tell me anything about this? You left me hanging. I didn't know anything about this. But I think the generations previously, it just was not culturally appropriate, right, to have these conversations. So we're on our own. So we're gonna be having.
I'm just so grateful, one, that you even agreed to have this conversation. Not only just have the conversation, but then also have it live for other people to be able to benefit from. Because that's what I was saying. Like, I remember one time, this is maybe probably like last year, feeling like I didn't have the guidance, from that maybe other people might have gotten, from their parents or whatever. And not because my parents don't love me or don't care about me or anything like that, but they never had these conversations with their parents, and it wasn't within their purview or their understanding to even just kind of discuss this. And I'm now at a place where, thank God, I am in a place where I'm healthy and I have my grounding practice. So the conversation from myself, like individually, about perimenopause, like I haven't been having any symptoms or anything like that. So that hasn't been something that I've experienced. However, because I do work with other people, people have brought it to my awareness that they're going through this perimenopause. And for me, I'm like, what are you experiencing? So I'm asking people, what are their actual symptoms? And then when they explain to me their symptoms, I'm like, well, this seems like something that could be addressed, if not completely eradicated, but like mitigated, if you had a practice that brought you home to yourself, right? And so, but before I just go off with my own conclusions and my own understanding, I was like, let me speak to somebody. And I appreciate you, because I like, in my head, you're kind of like my big sister or something like this. Like, so I just appreciate that. You sharing your experience with me. So I'm just going to ask you these questions, and I'm going to ask for permission to look silly, because I don't know what I don't know. So if I ask something that's like silly, just, please give me some grace, because I don't know.
I have a policy. My policy, first of all, is a straight face policy, right? So some stuff, a lot of it, I've come up with it on my own because it wasn't given to me. So like my straight face policy is like, let's say, my children, you could come to me, you can always ask me anything, like anything. It could be about sex, your parents, what was on my mind when I was getting pregnant with you. Nothing is off limits. As long as it's a respectful conversation, there's nothing off the table that you can't ask me. Nothing. I mean, nothing. And because there's so many things that are left out, and I'm like, man, I wish somebody would have told me this. This could have saved me so much time. So I have a straight face policy. And somebody, let's say, if my son or a younger person is sharing something with me in terms of experiences or things they want to experience, I'm going to keep a straight face. And it's something, as as you're also a mom, if you really want our children to come and share with us before they share with some knucklehead or misinformed person out in the street, our whole reaction could really cause them to shut down and to not share with us. So that's why I have a straight face policy. So yeah, I don't have a problem looking silly, because I'm usually on the front of the class. I'm going to ask my question. I'm asking my questions. I am asking. And I feel I don't know if I want to say privilege, but there's something that feels good. I don't know if privilege is what, but there's something that feels good about being able to hold space for the next generation of women, because it meant a lot. The few women that I could ask questions to that didn't make me feel stupid, oh my gosh, the gems that I received are still serving me today. They're like fruit and seeds. They are the gifts that keep giving. And also, I think in today's climate, there's so much misinformation. I think about this all the time. I think pretty much daily. And I feel like even misguidance, like so much is left out, you know, whether it's a valuable information from a self-proclaimed hoe, STDs, having your baby at home, moving to another country. There is so much that you can't see because everything is so curated on the screens. And I'm like, sheesh, like folks out here just straight misleading these young girls. And it's not until you get in your 40s or 50s or until after STD, a baby, or you have linked yourself to someone who you didn't know, you know, I like to say wisdom is hard earned. So yes, as long as it's respectful, nothing is off the table.
So my first question, really, again, super simple, but what is menopause and what is this perimenopause? Because I thought I understood what menopause was. It was just like, I get, very simply, it's the phase of life where your hormones start to change and you go through this period where your body gets ready to not be able to have children anymore, right? So this is my very rudimentary understanding of menopause, and my understanding is that that could be a phase. I don't know how long actually that is. Is that a month or a year or a couple of years? And then what is this perimenopause that everyone is talking about? And did you have that experience? And what was that like? How long was it? And how did you process?
In my crone phase, the crone phase, the phase of wisdom, and I will say straight off that I think it's unfortunate that society is kind of like duping women or tricking women, those of us that have been divinely assigned a feminine vessel that can portal life, is like kind of duping or tricking us out of one of the most precious phases of life. This is my last phase of life, right? As my godmother used to say, the angel of death is your constant companion. She used to say all of these things to me that were so far ahead of me. Because it's like, wow, who says that? The angel of death is your constant companion. So she said, Kwasa, when you go out the door, act like you're not coming back. So also, in a nutshell, perimenopause, you got it right, is premenopause, basically. Before, so you're prepping to go into that phase where you're not having babies anymore. I'm not in a phase where I'm having any more physical children. I may have some, you know, adopted daughters and community. I'm a community mama, community auntie, but I'm not having any more children. And little, I don't know if I want to say FYI or, but I'll give you some signs of the body changing. One thing my mom did tell me after some probing: your yoni hairs are gonna go gray. Right? Like, nobody talks about this stuff.
Yeah, I didn't know that. So it's good to be
Yoni or yoni start to go gray. Your skin texture can change. I think some of the biggest things though are the body temperature changes, the lubrication of your yoni, of course. So before it would easily become lubricated, or you get hot, you know, thinking of whoever you're thinking of, but you're drying out as those chemicals are leaving your body because it's a different phase of life. You're preparing for that kind of last trimester of life, right? So interesting here in Belize, you have minds of one of the groups here, groups of people here, and one of the goddesses, mind goddesses, the goddess Ishel, and Ishel is pictured as a maiden, a mother, and as a crone. You know, look very witchy with a bent nose, and she's bent and she's kneeling, and she has a big snake on her head and like a little loincloth or whatever, and she's kneeling. And the maiden has a snake, the mother has no snake, and the crone has a snake. And so when I was taking this herbal plant medicine class with somebody, you know, and I was like, wait a minute, how come the mother doesn't have a snake? So it was supposed to be, yeah, why doesn't the mother have a snake on her head, pictured on her snake? So if you think of what does the snake represent, right? And different mythology, wisdom, and sight, right? So I'm like, well, obviously the crone, right? She's acquired some harder and wisdom, as I like to call it. And the maiden, she's new. I would think the mother would have the snake and not the maiden. But she's fresh, brand new, full of possibilities. So my answer was, I don't know any of them were wrong. My answer was, I don't think the mother has the time to pursue certain types of wisdom. There's a lot of wisdom, there's a lot of on the job training that comes with that. And you're in your final phase where you got the mother and you got the maid in those different phases of puberty and childbearing. Your body went through different changes. If we had different rites of passage, that's where, as we're preparing food, or as we're doing here, or as I'm shaving your hair, or as I'm putting the hindi on your hands and I'm adorning you with waist beads, we're having conversations. As we're out in the garden, I say, pass me that herb. That's where that information and cultural mores, all of that is being transmitted. So now we don't have that. So you're kind of on your own winging it, looking at social media. So that's why I would have told you, Kemi, could you pass me that, or the red raspberry? You be thinking, what's a red raspberry? You see that one over there with those leaves over there? Crush it, smell it. See what it smells like? That's a red raspberry. Pass me that. You're gonna have this tea. This is what you're gonna use for your womb, and you can use that throughout all the different phases, right? So the mother a lot of times doesn't have time for all that because she's preoccupied with serving the children and everything. She's just being pulled, breastfed, all of that. So the crone phase is the age which everybody is running from, like fighting aging, the signs of aging, which is very interesting because other cultures and indigenous cultures, that's where you get respect. That's when somebody's coming to lay their head on your lap and ask you questions. So if nobody is going through that phase, then you're kind of lost. And in wars, so here's a question, like the question of the goddess Isha I put to you. In a war, who do you have to kill? Who you got to take out? Who are the casualty? Who do you have to take out? What's the booty and the spoils? Who do you have to take out? Make sure you take out.
And I'm not a strategist in war, but I know first there's the protection, right? So there's the men to protect. So once they're away, now you have the vulnerable, the women and the children, or the
Books.
oh, okay, that makes sense. That makes sense.
Because if there's, then you will continually reinvent the wheel. So you can never progress in wisdom. It's like you learning to plant. A lot of people that want to go back to, you're doing everything from scratch. You don't have somebody to tell you about why do you plant from the moon, or this particular seed. I know somebody likes to plant a lot, won't do well over here. Those organic seeds, broccoli won't do well over here. Let's say some of the bok choys and the choy sums will do better in this soil. So you're spending so much time reinventing the wheel. You don't know, am I about to get my period? What's a fibroid? Abdominal massage. You are reinventing the wheel. So if there's nobody transmitting that wisdom, you're lost. And a lot of that time you can't make up for. You're like in your 40s and 50s going through menopause behind. There's a whole chapters of information that you did not get, or you're relying on social media, or you're relying on, no offense to male doctors, or in this climate of social media where everybody's selling herbs and everybody's a healer. Quite often you're speaking to people that don't have a female vessel giving you all this information about menopause. I'm like, you don't even have, no offense, but you don't even have a woman's body, the sensitivities that we have when your breasts get full with milk and having to massage your perineum so you don't get it split and get an episiotomy.
Oh my God, you said so many things that I was like, yes. So one, the elders, you're right. So I do feel like that's what I was saying to you about the parents that I come from. I'm not saying everybody's parents, but just my parents, they meant well, but there was some information that didn't get passed down from like to them. And therefore now when it comes to me, I'm over here like fumbling in the dark trying to figure it out. We talk about being paired with, I have a whole child with somebody who I'm not in alignment with, like a whole like I wish that there was some more information given around how to even, one, first, how to love self, how to, connect with self, so I know who I need to connect with and partner with in this life to like to build something, right? But I didn't get that information, and so now I'm over here just trying to figure it out. And so now, and how many people are like me who are now, out here just fumbling in the dark and pairing with people and now creating children and generations, but we're not even in alignment. And I don't even know, like all the stuff he has to overcome, his lineage and his, you know what I mean? So that's one thing that I've noticed very clearly where not having that information from the elders being passed down has set me back to a degree, because now I'm like playing catch up, trying to figure out, okay, how do I get over this big, I won't say misstep, but kind of, you know what I mean? Like, because
We feel such, there are missteps. We are using up a lot of time playing catch up. And it's like, it's not about being a Debbie Downer. A critique is not a criticism, right? So I would say even it's a lack of maturity, not or in not being in safe spaces to get a critique, or somebody to give you information so you can avoid missteps that have an actual cost. A lot of these missteps will cost you, for example, right? You're following social media, you're following the music, you're twerking. There's nothing wrong with sensuality and sexuality, right? However, we're not realizing in our psyche just how influenced we are from the entertainment and the cues in terms of what is normalized. Abuse is normalized. Giving access to your womb is normalized. Overly rough sex is normalized. Something I was just thinking about today is, wow, whereas there are some self-proclaimed hosts who I have deep respect for, right? Because I can learn something from anybody. I also feel at the same time, being that everybody has access to the internet, even children, there is a disrespect for children. And when I say that, I mean that they don't have, their brains are not developed. There's no context for the information that they're exposed to. So it's like giving a child, small child, a gun, and they are likely going to do damage to themselves and to others. And portal humans here who we are ill prepared to be stewards of. And you cannot cast a spell and say an affirmation, turn around 3 times and burn some sage and push that human back up in your yoni, right? The things that are happening genetically with that other person. Let's say at a basic level, if we are stimulated and attracted, right, to somebody physiologically, or we may not understand that we're bonding off of trauma. We may not understand that it's a trauma bond. We have no idea of when there's a shortage of money, somebody is angry, their needs haven't been met. These things are going to show their faces when the newness and the attraction wears off, and they will have massive impacts, not only on us, on the humans that we are portaling through here. So we're creating some heavy karma, some tangible karma. We're creating stress that has a real cost to it. And so being that it's so taken so lightly because the information or the signaling, the messages out there are out of context. And I would say the pattern recognition, or what I recognize as a pattern with all groups, but however people want to identify themselves, the sexuality and the sensuality is being triggered and modeled without accountability and responsibility.
my daughter just came from a 2-3 week intensive at Bates College. So she's away, she was away with other, what, she's 15, so 16, 17-year olds, with very little adult supervision. So we already know what is giving, with the hormones giving, whatever. But I have the relationship that I have with her, so I trust that she, honored herself, because I'm not one of, like you said, you have a straight face policy. You can come to me and ask me anything, because I know my life experience, and I know growing up how the imaging, the music, the whatever videos, it was like what I saw being praised, like a woman being sexually desired was like the highest, I guess. You know what I mean? I saw women being desired for their sexuality, and not so much more for who she is as a person, and The whole right, that part. So I spend a lot of time trying to be desirable sexually to people who I'm not even in alignment with, people who I don't even know. You know what I'm saying? Like closely, oh, he's cute, but beyond that, what is his vision for his life? What is his purpose?
To admit that that's a misstep, even if it wasn't intentional, in ignorance. In ignorance. So I think also culturally we hold on to a lot of stuff, or we won't admit things because it's our culture. It's our culture, and it has to me, I would say it has cost us everything. It has cost us a lot of what is most precious. I would even say the consequences of not, let's say, for example, because I like to keep abreast of certain things. So let's say, for example, I was researching a whorehouse recently, one of the oldest whorehouses in, I think it's Nevada. I think it's in Nevada. It's legal. I don't know if it's called Mustang or whatever. And I was thinking like, wow. So it's legal. They have STD testing and so I'm looking at the madams and I'm looking at the different ages of women and I'm just running it through my mind, through my mental computer, and I'm thinking like, wow. So to me, obviously, a lot of girls are going into the industry for money. Yet one girl's even married for money. But I think what one of the things that's not discussed is, as we can see now, there's so much mental illness. There's so much out of alignment. Not even to speak of the acidity of people's different their secretions. There's so much that women that we take on. You get the money, but you're left with some stuff that money can't fix in terms of mental instability, emotional instability. That part is not talked about by some very developed and conscious hosts who I have great respect for, you know?
This is just me being fully transparent. I've always seen the dichotomy between the virgin, the married, that concept, and the hoe. And I always said, if I have only those two to choose from, I'm gonna be the hoe every time. Like I always said that. I was like, and so
I mean, that's a term that's used, but it's an aspect of humans. It's sexuality and sensuality, even as I'll be 56. And I would say, with, wrinkles and wear and tear, I feel very sensual, which to me feels distinct from sexy. And the context I see that, a knowing life experience, not feeling the need to try so hard. Doesn't mean I don't have insecurities, but there are a lot of insecurities. There are a lot of things that I have made peace with intentionally over the years, even as a young mother, like stretch marks and different things with my body and being comfortable with my hair. It doesn't take away from somebody else's journey. I used to have a Jerry curl and a gold tooth right here. I had a gold tooth with a heart on it. So let's keep it a buck. I'm not here to knock somebody's journey for their food, their hair. No, I'm just at a different place on this on the spectrum. That's all. I'm at a different phase of my journey. But let's jump back for a second to the perimenopause. In a nutshell, your body is shutting down those chemicals, and it's a significant change in your body as it prepares. So let me say, I didn't start to really experience, I'm saying maybe 50, 51, right? And I have had a healthy lifestyle for many decades. I was raised on junk food, Caribbean, uh and African American soul food. I had two different flavor pig feet. Let me keep it a buck. I was junk food junkie. I would be obese. Period. Point blank.
and I will say, what just to bring it back. Remember, you said Baba Salam or Abdel Salam, whatever. He was your godfather. He was one of the first people, if not the first adult, to be like, "You cannot keep eating like that." He's like, "You, you cannot eat like that." Because we went to this African restaurant. And the African spot up in Harlem. It was like a big plate of chebujet rice was the whole plate, and then it was like, I was getting into it, and he didn't think I was gonna eat the whole thing because I'm so little. I killed that whole plate. He was like, "Oh my god, like you can." He's like, "You gonna be big as a house. You cannot keep eating like that. You got to do something different." And I'm this is a clean version because you know how he talk. but
In my face, and he used to say, "Come here." He said, "You need to fix that skin." He said, "When I was coming up, we had Muslim skin." He said, "What? Do what you need to do." He said, "Fix that skin."
that part. But yeah, though I know, and so I think that because I'm hearing women as young as 30, 31 talk about this perimenopause. So for you, that's what I.
Said that.
Hmm.
An important something that may not even be is likely not even on your radar. I feel like I was talking about this morning. There are women that are going into menopause early because of the prevalence of fibroids and tumors and cysts. And so even as I've spoken to some young women, that I communicate with, many single women or don't have a lot of family, a lot of women are on their own. So the average woman is thinking, okay, we've got good technology. There's some less invasive procedures. Let me have them get this procedure and get back to work. So you're trying to choose whatever works within your health plan, whatever's going to get you back out to work the fastest. But there's usually some stuff that's left out. There are many women that are going in for fibroids and then waking up and they're like, we had to take your.
I have a womb.
They said we had to do a hysterectomy, right? And what that will do is put you into menopause early. Right. So what's not being discussed, okay, and because it's not hitting, the impact is not hitting, it's no context. That can set into play osteoporosis early, where your bones are becoming very porous, and most women are not strength training. Let's keep it above.
By strength training because that's how you build muscle density. But a lot of people don't want to do that.
Hormonal changes, they're powerful hormones. It's kicking it in early in your 30s. We're more prone to dementia issues with our brain as we go into menopause. Remember, it's the final trimester of your life, right? It's the crone, it's the wisdom phase. We're not having babies per se, but it's a time for you to capitalize off of your wisdom and your knowledge and your experience. I heard this one woman say that her mom thought that when she retired, that she, at 65, she was going to do all the things that she wanted to do at 65 in a 65-year-old body, but she had done no preparation. So she was gagging. She just thought, when I retire, I'm gonna do this. I've heard of several women when I retire, your body ain't there. The catch up is different. You're already in menopause. That is a farce. That is a skin. Women are going to be gagging. Gagging, even the discomfort of your body starting to go. Because I've experienced hot flashes. I remember in my 50s one day, and it is hot where I am now, right in Central America. One day, I'm used to the heat, but one day I was like, my gosh, it's like extra. It's hot in here. I found myself like intuitively on a bus, a 3-hour ride to the to the city to get a good quality fan. It was just like unbearable. I just found myself on a bus. And by the time I got back, I was like, I feel different. I was like, I just went to go get a fan, 3 hours. Could this be menopause? Maybe, I don't know. And then maybe like it just left. And then a couple weeks later, it hit again. I said, maybe. It took a while for it to kick in because I'm active. I'm in the garden. I'm always sweating, going from my workout in the morning to the garden to a bike ride to this. I'm very, very active and it's hot here. But it felt very, very different. And different women may, we're all different, like a fingerprint. Some people may experience this like, ooh, a lot of heat feeling like it's here. From the bottom down, but now we come back to embodiment. Most of us are so severely disconnected from our bodies. It's not registering. We're having like a outer body, it's like we're functioning cerebrally, like almost like we're looking through a screen at our bodies, like ghosts.
our bodies. Like it almost feels like we're trapped by our bodies. Like we don't um a lot of people just don't even know what the body is capable of doing, and you get so used to operating on like minimal uh capacity. For example, like let's say your phone is it's about to overheat or something, and it starts shutting down the other stuff so that it can operate on, was it safe mode, or your computer does that, it goes into like bare minimum, what I have to shut off everything so I can just keep this thing functioning. I feel like a lot of us have that kind of relationship with our bodies, and we don't even, and because we do these things that limit our capacity so often and daily, like even like shoes, wearing restrictive shoes, we're putting on chemicals on our skin like lotions and potions and all the things that that part, that part, and we don't even think about it because how you don't think about, you brush your teeth, you
You know, and the crazy thing is, if you look at the section of YouTube on fibroids and tumors, it's so many young women with fibroids that are looking like 6 8 months pregnant, or are bleeding profusely with it. They can't change enough pads, that are really going through it, and we're not making a connection between what we're moving so fast that we're not processing is the impact not hitting what you're eating, who you're allowing in your womb. We know intellectually we're stressed, but we have no practices integrated into our daily life. Whatever you're like, whether you're a nurse, doctor, mom, your body don't care. Those different practices to allow you to integrate, to even notice what's happening with your body, it's not there. We might as well be like in the Matrix, where we're laying in that pool and we're just plugged up to the thing. That's how we're operating out here. How about, and I don't tell no grown folks what to do, especially those that are not paying me, but how about this big trend with PrEP? Because of all the massive amount of cases of HIV, 50% of them are Black women married. No, not PrEP, but a lot of us take, but the numbers in terms of the new HIV cases, half of them, 50% of them are Black American women and married.
did not know that. That's
So
crazy.
then think of the that says to me, again, there are not, again, when we talk about misleading conversations. No, this, I came up very religious, been through most major religions, but there's a disservice being done. And this is not the age and stage to be crying somebody's doing me a disservice, because then it'd be too little too late. We're sitting up in these houses of worship for hours on end, giving so much money, and you can't even get clear on protecting yourself and your body. You're working, you're paying your taxes, you're doing the right thing, and you're married, but you got HIV. There's some misinformation there. There's a lack of clarity there. There's a lack of clarity about self-preservation and what I need to do to commit and devote myself to the God within to make sure I'm safe. Period. I said years ago. I was like, might be politically not popular, unpopular opinion. I said this so many years ago. I said, I think two things. One, I think we get to a point where people are going to f themselves right off the planet. We're gonna right off the planet, and we're gonna f ourselves off the planet. And well, I'm losing my train of thought. But basically, women have no idea. We have these romanticized ideas of marriage and relationship. There's so much, you hear these terms of decentering men. I think it's bigger than that. I think it's decentering the romanticization of being romantic in a relationship and not prioritizing your safety, right? It's popular. Let people ram hard up into your, causing trauma to your yoni, with coupled with being many people, men and women, having been mishandled our private parts, which has it left the whole imprint on our site. So everybody's getting together with all these unresolved issues. And you think this does not going to affect that human, that fetus that's coming through here?
This is one of the probably the biggest reason why I'm so intentional about getting things right and not fumbling anymore. Like these missteps, whatever I did before, that was out of ignorance and I didn't know any better. But right now, I'm clear. This little not so little person, because now she's taller than me, looking at me, who's now going through a phase of life where she has to operate with some level of agency and sovereignty. And I want her to operate with wisdom and understanding. I don't want her to have to repeat the same mistakes that I made because she lacks self-love and she lacks the guidance. So I am very intentional about speaking to these things so that she doesn't have to do that, like make these mistakes. And because what I've noticed is that, and I just told her yesterday, because they were doing hooking up and doing all the things, the people in the program that I was telling you, she just came from the Bates College. And I was like, and on one hand, she was honest, she felt a little left out, you know what I'm saying? And I understand, and I held space for that. But I was like, but you don't want to have to untangle something, you know what I'm saying? That you got tangled up in something, caught up because you didn't exchange energies way too much with the person that you really are not in alignment with. And now here you have to sit with that, because now you're by yourself. You know what I'm saying? You have to sit with whatever the consequences of that entanglement is and try to get and go on. And I was saying people's traumas play out in their sexual attraction, their desires, their activities all the time. That whole world, period. So I was going back, like I was teasing about, okay, whether it's like the Virgin Mary or the hoe, I'm gonna be the hoe. And for a long time, I kind of feel like I've played that role a little bit. And now I'm in a different phase of life because I have a different understanding. And I'm like, yeah, no, you know what I mean? But then I feel like there was this desire to, well, as a human, you want to be loved, you want to be appreciated, you want to be accepted. And without knowing like my traumas and how they left me feeling inadequate or not whole, I used sexuality as a way to connect with people or feel some sort of connection. And now I understand, especially having dipped my toe in many of the waters and trying different things and what works, what doesn't work. I'm like, a lot of people are using sex as a way to escape their traumas or to reenact their traumas, because there's a lot of that happening. And I was like, when I saw that, I was like,
Authority as if that is the healing. Well, for example, I'm not telling nobody what to do, but folks are saying if you basically you let people choke you and gag you, it's going to help you work out the trauma.
much shenanigans. Yeah.
My eyes need a colonic after I come away from the internet. I need a colonic in my eyeballs. I need a colonic in my eyeballs. I'm like, yo, these people are leading folks off a cliff. And I'm like, why people won't tell the truth? I'm like, this is nuts. This is nuts. Like with the new strains of STDs, like, yo, this stuff is morphing. I'm like, yo, people are lying out here. People are straight up lying out here. They're not telling you what they have.
About oh, you said the word integration. I want to bring it back to a couple of things. One, these missteps, right? So instead of like, because you can't undo, so you can't undo it. And I think some things we can kind of pretend. I know that this was my approach for trauma, for my response to trauma. Just kind of act like it didn't happen. I just make myself numb to it. I forget about it, and I bury it. And then yes, intellectually, but right. But in my mind at the time, I figured if I don't like speak on it, if I don't allow myself to feel, then it was as if it didn't happen. I have another experience, and I realized even just from other people's experiences and stuff, how I respond. I'm like, oh my God, I got to deal with that. So, for example, I have, I know somebody, and it was a tragic thing happened with her son, and he was attacked, and somebody cut his face up, and I'm thinking to myself, 'cause I'm trying to help. Well, I mean, I help with the situation in that moment, but when the actual threat and all of that was gone, and now he's left with the scars. Now, in my mind, I never said this to her necessarily, but in my mind, I was like, oh, well, I know this, and this that can help with the healing with the scars. And if you just if you just get rid of the scars, it's kind of like it didn't happen. This is just a conversation. This just happened in my own head because I realized that's how I processed trauma at the time is like, well, just act like it never happened. Just cover it up as much as possible so you can't see it. And then it's like it didn't happen. And I caught myself in that train of thought because I was like, no, like there it's not about I spent so much time trying to figure out how to cover things up or how to get rid of them or act like it didn't happen. And I was like, that kind of defeats, that's not healing. Healing is the integration of the experience. So healing is the how do I take what happened and learn from this and now with this understanding integrate this into my current life and how I approach life and how I approach people and my problems moving forward so that I'm more informed and I can operate with more understanding, more intentionality, more integrity, all the things. But that's kind of like mind blown right now because this is like kind of where I am right now is the integration. And I'm like, what does integration really look like as opposed to just pretending it doesn't happen? Like, and this brings us to our conversation about perimenopause and menopause and all these things is like, how do we like because you said something about menopause about people trying to run away from or escape it or like pretend like it's not going to happen because people don't want to age, they're running from the age.
Age, the context of age is like, how dare you show yourself without makeup? How dare you? Don't you have any money? You look busted. You running a business. How you're old enough. You should know better. You're on social media. Nobody's gonna give you business. How dare you show your face to this gala with no makeup, especially sorry to say, as a chocolate.
Why I cut my hair off. Part of the reason is because I wanted to see who I was, like who I am, without all the stuff, you know? And so I'm at this place where it's really hard because it's kind of like you're swimming upstream because we've normalized so much that there's only one way of being and one way of existing that's really mostly acceptable. So if you're older, it's okay if you're 72 as long as you look like you're 40 or whatever it is. Now that's praise. And I'm like, how do we get how do we 'cause at least for me, I'm now realizing that I have to prep myself as a woman. At some point, I am going to go through this phase of life, right? And so I don't want to. I want to age gracefully and peacefully, like in my mind, you know. So I'm like, so that being said, maybe it's not about running away from the aging process, and maybe it's more about welcoming the metamorphosis. Like maybe the way we see aging or way we see menopause or perimenopause is the issue itself, and maybe there's nothing to run from this, like we were made in the perfect image of God, so this metamorphosis.
I have a question for you. And it's something later too. You can like marinate and like, what do you have to look forward to?
Body or just in
Yeah,
old
what
age.
as you mature, as you become more seasoned, what is there anything that you're looking forward to?
It's fresh on my mind because I had never thought about it before, but my daughter made me think about this. She said something about, yeah, because your grandkids and da da da. And I was like, I had never thought about my grandkids ever. So that means I never thought about me being a grandmother. So when I thought about that, I was like, huh. And now I'm like visualizing what that would be like. And then I started to feel emotionally like, oh wow. And then it really also made me want to get in gear because I was like, I gotta be ready. Because if I'm gonna be Mama Kimmy, I got, you know what I mean, or Nana Kim, like I wanna have something to give to my grandbabies. And I never, ever thought of myself that way before. So that's one of the things I'm looking forward to. I'm looking forward to being able to um, pour into younger women and not feel like I'm competing with them. That's another thing that thank God yeah, I don't really feel that, because I but because I have people around me who are fighting the aging process, right? And I have this one friend who just and it's like I'm glad we're kind of not close now because I never thought about look at this wrinkle, look at this. But every time I'm around her, she's like, there's a new thing. Let's do this. Let's do that. And then she's trying to include me in it. And I was like, I thought I was fine before, but now I don't know. Maybe I should get it. And I'm like, no, let me be over here in my peace and whatever. But but somebody like this, like I know she would look at other people and look at younger women and feel a competition with them. And this is not to judge her, but I'm just saying that this was her experience. And I'm glad that I don't really have to be there. You know what I mean? Like I'm glad that I can
Well, competition in terms of generations. If what do you think the competition is for? What's the prize?
if I'm thinking about the conversations I was having with her, right? As a person who is a performer and is used to being on stage and people praising you for what you can do and how you look, the understanding is that the competition is kind of like the competition for the praise, for the the applause, the spotlight, right? I think people, and I've had another woman who is older tell me no one's looking at her anymore, so she feels invisible. And so I'm wondering if women who feel invisible, I think the prize is the visibility. The prize is being seen and being appreciated. I think that's the underlying thing. But I think when you're coming from a place where you're not really whole and you're not really connected to self, and so you are holding yourself hostage to other people's standards of beauty or what it is to be accepted and praised in as a woman in a woman's body and at any given age. I think holding themselves hostage to somebody else's understanding of that is what keeps them in this space of dissonance and disconnect from themselves and also other women that they feel like they're in quiet competition with, if that makes sense.
That has been passed down to us is that you are only valuable from 16 to 29.
As you are sexually attractive or you know what I mean, or sexually desirable. Now that could be for reproduction and blah blah blah, or just for pure vice.
Be for your reproduction, but to look as if you can reproduce. So think about that. It's understandable why that would create so much anxiety, and it is also supported because we're conditioned by women. Because everything usually when somebody's giving you a compliment or an insult, the first thing they go for is your looks. That somebody doesn't like you, male, female. That's why you look like this, and that's why your eyes and your glasses, and that's why your butt. Like that's the insult. Is the first thing that people will go for like venomously is your looks, and so I would say that it takes courage because we are affected and to yeah, somebody was trying to call. I think it really takes something to be very, very intentional. Yeah, I can see you.
I see you. You're black.
I think when that person called for a minute, that bumped us out. Let's see. Now you can't see my camera. Oh, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Oh, I think that call kind of
Oh
bumped us out.
no. Well, do you want to?
Mm.
I guess maybe we'll wrap. We're coming up on almost the
We'll
hour.
wrap it up. We'll continue this conversation. It's good conversation. Look, I think it's something I can definitely tell you from my experience.
Okay.
At 22, I believe I had my son.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember I was so pissed off that the last week I got stretch marks. I was livid. I said, this cat messed up my stomach. My stomach was looking great. I was pissed off because I had all the emollients. I had shea butter. I had the finest shea butter, vitamin E. My son's dad worked at this apothecary, so I had the best of the best. And I was all oiled up. My perineum was oiled. My breast was oiled. My stomach was oiled. I was greased and slicked up like sunshine. And I got stretch marks the last week. I was pissed to the height of passivity. I was so pissed off. And at some point, I was like, and then Diane Harvey Salam, I'm so gracious, so gracious. She said, "Oh," she said, "my dear," she said, "that's your badge of honor." And I'm thinking, like, I don't think so. I'm pissed off. But I remember, due to that conversation, I would look in the mirror and I said, "You know what? This is it. And I said to myself, I like, this is my stomach. And at some point, these are my corns. I'm gonna dress them up with some toe rings and some nice nail polish. These are my hands. I wash a lot of things by hand and put them out on. They're mine. These are my lips. This is mine." The emotion behind it, how you speak to yourself. It's not just saying the affirmations, right? Because you can't really lie to your subconscious.
Nope.
But the feeling behind it, because there's a feeling when you're running, this used to be me, running to catch the beauty supply store frantically before it closes so you can get some more stuff.
Right.
You trying to beat the beauty supply store. There's the anxiety and the anxiousness to get another new outfit. Most of us have more clothes. We're paying for extra storage for stuff that we can never wear. There's an anxiety. It's fear-based.
Yeah.
It's fear-based. And so I don't think a lot of conversations, the honest conversations, are being had around, and we're in safe spaces too, around addressing those fears. We put stuff on top of it. We put perfume and makeup. And I'm not necessarily anti-makeup, though I'm very, very, very cognizant and aware of the emotions that are underneath it. And we think people can't see. We think people can't see. Though anyone with some maturity that's paying attention can perceive the vices and the self-medication, we're being constantly offered vices and self-medication as a cheap substitute for healing.
That part.
Right? Because healing takes time. It's uncomfortable, which most people don't have the time or desire discomfort. Yet there's no way around it. So we can fake front and pretend and curate everything perfectly on social media. But you can see if we're eating ourselves to the point of deformity, if we are constantly medicating at every turn, that's saying something that is, we don't want to hear. That's not self-love. That's numbing. That is severe numbing. That is disembodiment. That is disconnection. That is dysfunction. You cannot see how your organs are trying their best to survive under the weight of all the excess food, which is not being eaten for fuel or nutrition. It's being eaten as a form of recreation and sedation.
That part. That's a whole nother topic right there. We could do a whole nother live on that. That'd be next week live. Real talk. But
the menopause, this is the time to perimenopause for you to prepare. If you had it before, I just tell girls, in their 30s, if you weren't getting it together before, you have 20 million reasons to prioritize a movement practice, not merely for aesthetics. As I can tell you, as somebody who's been in the industry for several decades, just wanted to get into the jeans, it will not last. That is not sustainable. You have to have a deeper, more clear reason to have embodiment practices. People say exercise, I say embodiment. I say a personal movement practice. Why? Because it is therapy that you can administer to yourself. You need the therapy that's not dependent on the therapist, that's not dependent on the medications. Because as we can see now, once this administration pulls the plug, got you hooked on it, and pulls the plug, then what are you going to do?
That part. Oh my God.
So,
this is great. Yes. You're amazing. I'm so grateful. Seriously.
You are so welcome. Thank you so much for stimulating this communication. I'm looking forward to us having more. It's so valuable because these conversations help us get clear. Clarity is worth its weight in gold, right? And so hopefully other women will have access and can replay this while they're decluttering or while they're chopping their vegetables or while they're doing their nature walks, right? So we can leverage social media. Right?
I feel like clarity precedes peace. And I just, I that's where ultimately where I'm aiming is that peace, that peaceful state of being. I want to exist in a state of peace and not that state of constant survival and stress and all that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
oh my
So
God.
I do want to say before we get off, folks, anyone that's catching a live or the replay, please go over and follow Kemistri Blake Body Kemistri.
Thank you.
On all social media, on Instagram, on YouTube. At some point, we'll be continuing some of these conversations also on her YouTube channel. She's also on Instagram, phenomenal bodywork practitioner. I want to give a shout out to Casper, Ape Deb, Ujo Wajet, Niang, who's saying aloha. She
Aloha.
said, loving the lives, and don't forget to live. What a nice name. When did the live start? It started about an hour ago. So for those
Yes.
folks catch the replay, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe because I like to come on when I'm offering something of value. So I look forward to continuing these conversations.
Thank you so much and talk to you soon.
Talk to you soon.
All right, ciao.